Hey YouTube, it's Robert and I'm coming to you today with an outdoor project. In this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how I made this custom mailbox post with some rough dimensions for you and a little bit of an overview of the step-by-step process to create this. And there's a bunch of different versions of this that I've seen online, so I picked a few of the elements that I liked personally to create my own version of it. And with that, there is a lot of room for creativity and customization based off of your own preferences, maybe some of the requirements of your particular mailbox, but I will share a lot of the specifics in terms of the materials that I used for this, as well as some of the dimensions that I used, and I'll have links for any of the specific products that are featured in this video. And in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step look at the process I used to create this mailbox. However, I am not going to be giving specific instructions on how to perform each of those steps because that would make this a very, very long video. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Starting with the materials that I used for this project, I purchased redwood fence posts and then cut them down to create the slats for the two sides of our mailbox post. Redwood is a great exterior wood and it has a lot of naturally beautiful color to it. So instead of having to stain a wood to add some color to our sides of the mailbox post, we can just use the redwood and leave it with its natural color tones to shine through. I use 1x6 cedar for all of the perimeter framing that I'm going to paint with the satin black paint, and cedar is another great exterior wood and it's very easy to paint. For the front and back legs of the mailbox post, I use a 4x4 treated lumber, and note that the dimensions I have listed here are based off 18 inches of those lengths being underground, so if your hole depth varies a little bit from mine, you may need to adjust accordingly. I start out by attaching this 12-inch 4x4 to my longer back post, and that's going to form the top of that back side of the mailbox post that's going to be behind our mailbox. I use a 4-inch screw to connect these two, and I make it work by countersinking my hole so that I can make that 4-inch go a little bit further into my second post. You could avoid this additional step by just buying the correct length of screw or bolt, but this is what I had on hand, so I decided to go ahead and make it work. I did connect them from both sides so that it ends up very secure, and this ultimately is what my first two rows of the redwood slats are going to attach to. Before I attach any of my slats, I'm going to run all of my wood through a planer. This is just going to remove all of the rougher face and make my sanding job much easier. I do want to apply a finish to my redwood, so I wanted it to be a little bit more smoothed out and have a little bit more of a refined finished look to it as well. You actually don't have to do that with redwood, but it will look a lot better and last longer if you do. I sand all of my wood down to 180 grit so that it's ready for me to apply my finish and my paint. When I'm ready to start attaching my slats, I mark where my screw holes are going to be, and I keep it consistent on all my slats so that my screw holes end up in a nice straight line down all sides of my mailbox post. I use exterior trim screws in a copper color so that they're less noticeable on the redwood, and then I'll be using black screws for all of my painted cedar wood for the perimeter frame. And you can see by using these finishing screws, the ultimate hole that's left is quite small, and it looks really good when you take that extra time to make sure that your screw holes stay consistently placed as you work your way down. As I move from row to row, I continue to make sure that I'm staying square and that I'm placing my screw holes in a consistent manner so that it looks like a nice straight line all the way down the post. When I get to my first full row and I'm ready to connect my back leg to the front leg, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm extra careful with squaring these up so that my mailbox is going to be able to sit level and flush when I'm all done. From there, I'll screw my board into my front leg, and my front and back legs are now connected. I'll just continue to place row after row, checking to make sure I'm staying square and keeping my screw holes in the same consistent placement. And this is one of those things that you can be as detailed as you'd like to be, but I think it looks much better when we take that extra time to keep those things lined up. And once we've worked all the way down our first side, we're going to flip it over and repeat the whole process down the second side. Once we've done both sides, we now have something that's starting to look like our mailbox post, and we're going to take this opportunity to apply our first coat of tung oil onto the wood. This is going to allow me to have that first coat curing while I move on to other phases of the project, since I am going to put multiple coats on. And my favorite wood finish by far is pure tunnel oil. It just brings out such a depth and richness to the grain, and it's really easy to reapply in the future without us having to sand off any existing finish before we reapply our oil. And we're ready to move over to our cedar wood. I am going to roll on an indoor-outdoor paint from Krylon. It's a satin black, and I'm not going to use a primer. I'm just going to do a couple coats of the black paint. Now, I am a terrible painter, and I'm rolling this paint on. You might prefer to brush it on or roll it. Whatever you choose to do, you'll probably get a better result than what I did. And another look at my masterful painting technique as I continue to paint my additional boards. You will want to paint all sides of the wood. Once all my boards are painted and they've dried, I'm ready to attach them to the frame. And I place this piece first so that I make sure it goes all the way down to my first row of the panels and it doesn't sit on top of the mounting board that my mailbox is going to be bolted into, because that would affect the dimensions of where each board finishes. And as I work my way around the perimeter, I do make sure that my board is centered, so there's about 1/4 of an inch overhang on each side. I work fairly late into the evening, but I am finally able to get this completed and ready for installation day. And when my next day off presented itself, I was ready for the mailbox installation. I knew this day of reckoning would begin with a fierce battle against my old mailbox, where I would be forced to hoist it from the ground like pulling the Excalibur from the stone. In actuality, it was completely rotted and it just popped right out. Now, digging the holes, on the other hand, was a battle, and I had 22 inches to dig. Never missing an opportunity to make my life harder, I used a shovel and opted to not wear gloves. I recommend against both. You could use a fence post hole digger, and I'm told that would make the job a little easier, although I never look for the easy option. Once I got 22 inches deep, I filled up about 4 inches with some gravel so that the legs of my mailbox post will have drainage if there's ever excessive water. I place my mailbox into the holes so I can check the depth of the legs is good, start making sure that everything is level before I finally set everything in place to then pour my concrete. And the day that I installed this was one of the windiest that we had had in a while, because of course it was. So it came in extra handy that I had 2 additional fence posts to use to prop this up and kind of give me some help while I continued to manipulate it and make sure that everything was level. Once I made sure that it was level on both sides and not tilted towards or away from the street, I was ready to pour my fast setting Quikrete, which fortunately you can just pour right into the hole and add water. It does not need to be mixed, although you can if you would like to. And once the concrete's set, we go ahead and fill the rest of the hole back up with some of our excess dirt. The mailbox I purchased was from a company called Mailbox, and the model was the Mail Manager, which I really like. The installation was very simple. Once I got it all leveled out, you just have to drill through the base of the mailbox and then install these 4 bolts, which you can use a socket wrench to install. A little bit of a tight fit in there, but overall it was a pretty quick process. Very heavy duty mailbox, and it has a nice modern look to it, so there's a link to that product in the video description. And moving ever closer towards completion, I just have my solar light and my house numbers to put up on both sides of my mailbox. So with these, I really just want to make sure that I'm placing them consistently and that I'm running them evenly and straight down the 2 sides of my mailbox post. Now the numbers that I purchased came with these nice little cards for our template so that we can drill our holes and then more easily place our numbers once everything is lined up appropriately. And though it's really important that we use our cards to keep the numbers running down straight, it's equally important that you use the blue painter's tape with as little rhyme or reason as possible. So just tear those things up and slap them on there the way that you see I've done here. The numbers give you two options on how we put them on. We can install them where they're flush against the wood, or you can use the little metal spacers that you see me sliding over my screws, and that will kind of have the numbers stick out, just adding a little bit more dimension to how they're displayed on our mailbox post. And these can be installed with a rubber mallet, or because I have this really small little rubber mallet here, I'm going to place that against the number and then hammer it in from there, just so that I don't use my actual hammer and damage any of my numbers. Rinse and repeat on the other side, and we are done. And a quick look at both sides of our finished mailbox post. I've gotten several compliments from my neighbors on this already, so I'm very pleased with the results.
So that's it. If you guys found this video helpful or entertaining in any way, be sure to hit the like button and comment down below if you have any additional questions on the specifics of this. I'm happy to try and answer as many of those as I can. If you guys would like to see more videos from me in the future, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And until next time, happy remodeling and have a great day.